Guys, today I'm going to talk to you about power rails, voltages, voltage states, and a few other things. We're going to talk about some pomade, and we're going to drink some beer, and as you can see, we're a couple in. This motherboard here came out of my wife's old computer. I took it apart today. She let me use it to show things on my videos, and then eventually I'll put it back together and probably give it to somebody. Now, as you can see, this is the basic layout of a laptop, and these gray things, those are coils, and these little black things, they're MOSFETs. We'll talk about how those work in my next video. And here you can see I have my power adapter plugged in. Now, when you take your motherboard apart, your power adapter isn't going to come with it. You have to take this out of the case. Now, speaking of taking a computer apart, the very first thing that you need to do is take the battery out. Because if you don't take the battery out and you disconnect the cable to the screen, you're going to have problems. It's going to send a lot more voltage than that screen can handle. And we'll talk about how that happens. Okay? Now, right now, this board is not turned on. But there are some voltages present. I can go with my black probe right here on a ground spot, which is any metal or your screw holes, and I can measure. Let's see here. Where's my 19? Let me kick this up to 40. Just a second. Let's kick this up to 40. Looking for my 19 point there. Okay, right off the power supply, it's 19.47. That's 19.5. That is my main power rail. Okay, I'll bring that over here closer so you can see. And what that means is voltage is getting into the motherboard. Let me get that going again. Where's my 19.5? Just a second. I had it. I lost. Sometimes these things you have to stab them because they've got a coating on them. Here, let's put this ground on. Here, there we go. Just a different ground spot, a little less. There's 19.47. All right, that's your main power rail. Now, this board is not turned on, but there is voltages present. We have different states of voltage. There's S3, S5, and SO. S3 means there is 3 volts present, and S5 is there's 5 volts presence. That is for your RAM, your get ready system, and your battery charging, and several other things that we'll get into later. For RAM to work, it has got to have voltage going to it. So to measure our S3 and S4, I'm going to go down here and poke right there on that. And I've got 3.3 volts. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you this. If when looking at a computer and you don't know exactly what is wrong with it, it's not obvious. If you don't have your 3.3 voltage line or your 3 volt line, that is a problem. That computer will not turn on. Then we need to see 5 volts present, and there it is right there. That is your get ready state and charging state. Okay, so there are voltage on this board, and here your 3 volts actually begins up here. Okay. All right, so you've got 3 and 5 volts running while the computer is not on and it's plugged in. okay? Because that RAM needs to be able to have voltage going to it so it can boot up like that. And then you've got your standby circuitry, so it can be waiting for you to turn it on. Now RAM runs on 1.5-ish volts, and that voltage gets taken down through other means, through MOSFETs and coils, and I'll show you how that works. Now, many of you guys watch people, and as you can see, this fan is not spinning. Many of you guys watch people work on motherboards and they turn it on and there's no power button. Well, if you'll notice that on a motherboard or on a keyboard, there's a power button. So the power button is located somewhere on the keyboard line to the motherboard. And the keyboard line to this motherboard is on this side, and it's right here, okay? And to turn this on, all you need is either a pair of tweezers, or I'm going to use a screwdriver, and it's usually the first 2 pins or the last 2 pins, and all you do is you short them. And on this one, come on, was it you two? Or was it you two? Give me a second. You can do it with a screwdriver or your tweezers. Okay, I got it. And as you can see with this blue light right there's a blue light. This board is now on and there's voltage everywhere. Every now and then you will see this fan spin because, there it goes, because it warms up. So this board is on. The board does not have to be in the casing to be turned on. It doesn't have to have your hard drive connected to it or a screen. This is as on as it gets. Now we'll start looking at some places, and I'll show you what the voltages are. So over here, this is obviously the CPU. And measuring here at this inductor, we're getting nothing because, oh, here we go. Maybe I need to change my, I'm going to change my ground spot. That ground spot doesn't seem to work very well. Let's find a better ground spot. Come on. You know what, I may have to unplug this power supply and plug it back in. So I'm just gonna pop the power supply off and plug it back in, because some of these reset themselves. So I'll plug that back in. Oh, this is aggravating. I think it's my multimeter playing games, and I'm not exactly sure what game it's playing. Maybe I need to read the box. Okay, so since I'm not getting anything on this multimeter, I'm going to switch to another one. Okay, this one is an automated one. It's cheap, but it's automated. So this computer is running. As you can clearly see, the fan is going. And that multimeter I got for my birthday, I haven't exactly read everything. So that's on me. So these pins aren't as sharp, but let's take a look. Right here we've got 3 volts. Over here we've got 1.079 volts. Now these near the CPU, these are probably your V-core, and that's 1.09 volts, and that's 1.09 volts. And then these here, I don't know if a third is to the CPU. I don't have the schematic for this, and that's half a volt. So I'm thinking that's for something else. And then there's 1.5 volts. I'm pretty sure that this 1.5 volts is for the RAM right here, okay? And there are power rails all over, and the way to find the power rails, the easiest way is look for your inductors, okay? And the way that works is a MOSFET gets the voltage first to the gate, and it's told to turn on, and it blasts about 60,000 or 600,000 times per second voltage, and then drops it off to nothing, then back on to something. It's mostly on. They're very short. Your multimeter can't pick it up. And in doing that, it goes to an inductor, which depending on the properties of the inductor, these coils, depending on the properties of those, it will cut the voltage to a certain point. But what it's also doing is raising the amps. Well, right here we're running your average CPU runs on about a volt. So I'm pretty sure that these two right here are for our CPU. Now the more inductors and MOSFETs you see around a CPU, the higher power it is, okay? Because yeah, it's fine running on 1 volt, but it needs a lot of amps. This CPU does not need a lot of amps. I have gaming motherboards where there are 12 of these, okay? And on a gaming machine, the more, we call them buck converters, and some people call them VRMs. The more there are, the smoother and the more steady your flow of voltage and amps. But mainly it's providing those amps that your processor needs. Now, so this is still running, and voltage is everywhere. And this is how you can check, well, do I have voltage on this or that? You put your, you put your, there, now it's getting hot, you can probably hear that. You put your ground probe on ground, and remember that's any metal, and then you can check the voltage of things. One of the things that I did want to show you down on the bottom, let me see where it's at, where that came out of. I'm going to show you that on most laptops you have, here we go, you have 19 volts that's going to run to the screen, to your backlight. Okay, and then it's going to go through an inverter, and your voltage is going to jump up into the 30s up to the 50s. And some of these lines here are, I'm going to try at the other end. There's my 19.3 volts. Okay, that is going, whoops, that is going to the screen. Did I just turn that off with that little shorting right there? Let's see if I did. So you got 19 volts going to the screen. Yeah, be careful sticking metal things on the board. I'm going to unplug this real quick. Then I'm going to plug it back in. Then I'm going to see if I can fire this back up. Or I can feel the heat on the CPU. and that could be why it shut down. It's not in its proper configuration. Let's see if we can fire this back up. There we go. So no, that little shorting across on the video did not turn the computer off, or did not kill the computer. Okay, so once again, when you're taking apart a computer and they're all different, watch a teardown video. Okay, this one was a pain in the rear because it's what we call a sandwich. It had 3 layers. Always disconnect the battery, otherwise you will kill your LCD. Then also remember, if you can't find your 3.3 volts, that's your main problem. That if you don't see a short automatically right off the bat. Okay? All right. Today I'm wearing Hipster Pomade. This is a clay pomade. It says matte pomade, but it's mostly clay. And this too is a water-based pomade. I really do recommend getting oil-based, but I don't really have access to oil-based. You can see my hair. It's really standing tall. Okay? And thanks for watching. Subscribe. I'll see you later.